Okay, on this segment, we're going to dive into what is the right order to do planning within your company. If you need to do succession planning and you need to do estate planning and you need to work with the management team to try to figure out how to reward, retain, and incentivize them, which one do you do first? The management group, the estate group, or the succession planning? There's only one right way to do this, and I'm going to do my best to draw and give you an idea of what that is. The first thing, the absolute first thing you should do before you do anything is succession planning. Now, why do I say you got to do succession planning first? You can't possibly build an estate plan till you've got the succession plan done. What's the value of the company? Who's going to take it over? How are we going to structure the buyout? Is it going to be a cash out? Is it going to go to are we going to go to the bank? Am I going to do a note, an internal buyout? What are the economics? If I have stock now valued at this, and I'm going to look at doing a transition plan with my management team or with my family, you've got to have all of the economics of designing how the succession plan is going to work before you do an estate plan. The estate plan comes next. The reason that this order is the only way to do it is because we got to figure out whether or not we're going to knock ourselves out to try to eliminate estate taxes, because anything over 30 million is going to get hit with a 40% federal state tax and a 1% state inheritance tax. And how you do your succession plan will mean everything to how you do your estate plan. For example, let's say you're going to do a succession plan for the kids, and that succession plan is going to include gifting. How are you going to gift it? You're going to give it directly to the kids? Are we going to create a trust and we're going to give the stock of the company to the trust? We've got to understand how that's going to happen. The other thing is, if it's a buyout with family involved, there's usually big discounts. You're going to be in a position where, look, you want to make sure that you're taken care of in retirement, but you don't want to overcharge what the value of the company is going to be if you sell it to the kids. And if you're going to do gifting, if you have a company that's worth $1, you want to argue for every discount you can to get that dollar down to 70 cents or 65 cents before you do gifting. So you move as much out of your estate as you possibly can. And then you want to make sure that you've built all the economics in place so that you know that if there's going to be a buyout, that the type of buyout you do will not strip all of the cash flow of the company out of there to take care of you and not leave the company with enough money to operate and function properly. So you gotta get all of that figured out, and then that pours into the estate plan, because we will have gifted, discounted stock in the trusts that are outside of your estate. So we have to then, after we build the succession plan, we have to decide what is in the estate and what is outside the estate. Whatever is in is going to have the big tax bill come out of it that the IRS is going to take. If we build this the right way, we can move a lot of these assets outside of the estate so that they're not subject to estate taxes. And that means like setting up intentionally defective trusts. It means setting up scenarios where if you have high growth assets, what you leave in the estate are low growth assets. It means sometimes where you sell assets to the next generation in exchange for a note that won't grow as fast as the asset that you sold. So there's a number of strategies that you'll do from an estate planning standpoint that you can't do until you know how the succession plan is going to be built. I'm not going to get deep into the weeds on all the estate planning concepts in this conversation, but it's important that you know you've got to do the succession plan first before you do the estate plan. Once you've developed the estate plan and you've figured out how you want to transition your wealth, what part of it is a sacred asset that has to stay in the family, what part of it is not sacred, that could go to charitable trusts or foundations and community organizations that are benefiting society. You can figure that all out after you build the succession plan. But once we know what the estate plan is going to look like, then we can start talking about what do we do with the company after that's all done. We know who we're going to sell to. We know what the cost is going to be. We know where those assets are going and how they're structured from an estate planning standpoint. We know who's going to be the CEO. We know who's going to be the COO, CFO, who's going to be the vice president of sales. We figured that all out. So now it's a question of what is the right way to incentivize the team to stay put. So the last thing I want to put in here is management, incentive plans, and incentive plans that will retain your key people. Now, let's say that we know that we have one of the children that are going to be the CEO of the company, and we've got this whole management group that's essential to running and operating the company. If these folks aren't going to ever own stock because the stock is going to stay in the family, what do we got to do to retain them? What do we got to do to keep them around? And then what do we need to do to make sure that they're profitable and running and operating the company so that it really succeeds after the senior leadership is sold and they're gone? And so, there's phantom stock plans. There's actually offering stock to the management group. There's deferred compensation plans. There's a whole series of strategies that we can put in here that will help this management group build wealth. The big thing is they will stay with you as long as they know when it comes time at retirement that they're going to get a money bag that will help them retire. The last piece of this is profitability. And how are you going to make sure that this team is profitable once we put all this stuff in place? And the best way I know is to launch our team deep into the weeds inside of the company to study the operations, the way finances are being managed, the way purchasing, receivables, the way the manufacturing, distribution, shipping, how all that is working out to make sure that it is as profitable as possible. And we have software and metrics and talented people that can come into the organization and make sure that we are maximizing profit and we're getting the most that we can out of this team. So it makes it really easy to put money aside and help the team build wealth because they're tapped into helping this company succeed long term. So that's just basically a real quick discussion about the timing of things. Before you start going to attorneys and asking, okay, what kind of will should I have? What kind of trust should I have? What kind of a gifting plan should I be doing? If you own a company that is successful, the first thing you have to solve, how are we going to structure the succession plan? Who's going to be the CEO? What's going to be the purchase price? If we're going to do an installment plan, what's that going to do to the working capital of the company? And will we be able to operate properly if we do this transition plan? How much of it am I gifting? How much of it am I selling? Then you get that figured out. Then you look at building that estate plan, the trusts, the gifting. You have to also figure out, what are you going to do with family members that aren't active in the business? Do you treat daughters and sons that are living in another part of the country the same as you do as the daughter and son that's inside the business running and operating it? You can't figure out, again, how you're going to treat everybody till you figure out the succession plan. If you have a son, for example, that's going to be the CEO, and he's going to get a large proportion of the estate because that's what the stock represents, then parents have to think about, how are we going to allocate other assets to the other children so they all know that we love them all equally. It's just we're putting the company in the hands of people that are running and operating it as opposed to those that aren't. Again, the succession plan comes before the estate plan. So if you need any help with this, I want you to give me a call. The office number is 402-391-0222. We specialize in helping parents not only work through the tough issues, but we do all the financial analysis, the spreadsheeting, and the forecasting to see whether option A works better than option B. And we work all that out before we get to the attorneys and the CPAs and have them build their professional systems around what we've crafted. So give me a call, 402-391-0222, or go to my website, nabity.com, Nabity.com, and send us a note, and we'll follow up with you. And let's just get together and chat and talk about what's going on in your company. We don't charge anything to do that, and get to know each other and see if there's any way we can help you. Thanks so much.